Smoky Mountain Invite did not have good frisbee weather on Saturday. With heavy winds at the complex, it was clear to see that many teams were not prepared to play in said conditions. Many games have high turnovers, long points, and sloppy frisbee. Nevertheless, the tournament still happened, so let's see how it went. Pool A went to chalk, but with many close results. Both Oregon State and Vermont made their games against Carlton very interesting. Carlton beat Vermont 13-12 on Universe Point, and they beat Oregon State 11-9. The game between Oregon State and Vermont went to Universe, with Oregon State winning 10-9. It would have been great to see any of these three games streamed on Saturday, but there's nothing we can do about it. Pool B was a good one. We started with Pittsburgh versus Northeastern, and things got out of hand quickly, with Northeastern taking a 7-3 lead at halftime. Pitt was able to make the game go to 7-7, then we proceeded to have a 15-minute point. A mix of wind, injuries, timeouts, and a lot of calls made this point last too long. This was the big reason why the score ended up being a 9-9 Universe point.
Yes! Let's fucking go, man!
Northeastern barely holds off Pitt and takes the win. While this game was happening, UNC was playing against Oregon. UNC was missing Ben Dameron, Seth Freed, and Eli Freed, and Oregon was taking advantage of that. They took a 4-1 lead, primarily benefiting off of UNC's mistakes. All Oregon needs to do is play smart offense and they should be good to win, right? Wrong. The term smart offense should rarely be involved with College Ultimate. UNC starts to chip back at the lead, yet Oregon still takes half 7-5. The second half was a great showing of Oregon's floor. They were making a lot of mistakes on offense, especially in the red zone. UNC was not perfect either, but with many of their key contributors, such as Josh Singleton, Kevin Pignone, Matt Barcelos, and Grayson Trowbridge crossing over to offense and defense, UNC was able to have stronger contributors to play in the win, and they end up taking the win 13-10. The rest of the pool goes to chalk, with no other major results to note. Pool C had a Brown versus Colorado game day, and Colorado did not look too strong. I believe they should have won the game easily, but Brown's dominator-centric system is developing quickly, and it's a strong offense to run in the win. I called Brown out in my Florida warm-up recap as a team I was not a fan of, and while they still have some work to do, this game and weekend was an overall good sign for them. Colorado narrowly wins 13-11. Penn State versus Georgia was a close game throughout. Throughout the first half, Georgia was able to get a break, but Penn State got one back. Penn State eventually got a second break, which led them to take half 7-6. Out of half, Georgia got a break of their own to bring the game to 7-7. Penn State held, then they got their own break, making the game 9-7. The game went back and forth with holds and breaks until it was 10-10. Georgia takes a crucial 11-10 lead, and the teams trade holds, which brings us to Universe Point.
Get big, Mullins! Let's go,
Georgia wins on Universe, and although I thought Penn State would win this game, they performed fairly well. From there, Penn State went downhill and made my prediction look foolish. They lost to Colorado 11-7 and lost to Brown 13-11, going 0-3 in pool play. Colorado did beat Georgia 11-10 to win the pool, but there is no footage of it, so we will have to use our imaginations on how the game went. Pool D had 2 streamed games, and to be blunt, they were ugly. Texas versus Minnesota was a 13-5 game, with Minnesota making a lot of mistakes and Texas capitalizing off of them. Texas was the only team that looked good out of the 4 that I saw. UMass versus Georgia Tech was an 11-9 game, which looks incentivizing on paper, but it was a turnover fest for both teams. The wind played a big factor in these games, and it showed. If you want to watch these games, go for it, but I wouldn't recommend it. UMass wins the pool, and the final 3 teams have a rock-paper-scissors matchup to claim the 2, 3, and 4 spots. We know that Texas beat Minnesota 13-5, and Georgia Tech beat Texas 13-11, while Minnesota upsets Georgia Tech on Universe 13-12. From what I heard, the Universe point was over 8 minutes long, where each team had 5+ possessions. That's all you need to know on how Saturday went in this pool. Here is the bracket we have after pool play, and we get to see one more set of games on this rough Saturday. Pre-quarters. Vermont faced off against Georgia. With this game being the 4th game of the day, the depth will show, and with many people saying how Vermont has one of the best rookie classes and deepest rosters, they proved it here, cruising by Georgia 15-8. Our other stream game showcased Brown facing off against Oregon State. The game was nothing special once again, with the wind making gameplay sloppy. Teams traded holds and breaks throughout, but the breaks didn't feel as impactful if the weather was nicer. Maybe it's my perception of it, but the games didn't have the same feel as other tournaments this year. Brown does take half 8-7, but Oregon State will eventually crawl back and take a 14-11 lead. The game looks easy from here, right?
Come on, get on the
Why would they be this?
Oregon State holds off Brown and advances to the quarterfinals. Every quarterfinal game was not close, except for the Oregon State versus Brown game, as well as Northeastern versus Texas, where Northeastern won 15-12. Let's look at our quarterfinal matchups and head into Sunday. Sunday had nicer weather. It was a cold day, with the temperature starting in the 30s and eventually reaching the low 40s, but the wind has died down a lot compared to Saturday. Colorado versus Northeastern was a big draw for many, and I believe it's because people wanted to see if Northeastern was legit, but they weren't able to prove it here. The game was strong in the first half, but Colorado cruised through the second half to win 15-9. On the other hand, we had Carlton versus Oregon, the top 2 seeds. The top 2 teams in the power ranking. This should be a great matchup, right? It was alright, I'd say. Oregon did not look all that good. Poor turnovers led to Carlton having more opportunities, and they took advantage of them. Carlton's goal line defense shifted the game, which allowed them to win 15-12. In our unstreamed games, UMass took down Vermont 15-10, and UNC took down Oregon State 15-11. Here are our semifinal matchups. Carlton versus UMass was a chippy game throughout. Carlton managed to get a break early, but UMass bounces back with 2 breaks of their own. The game stays with holds and one more Carlton break to bring us to an 8-7 UMass leading halftime. I don't know what UMass did in their halftime huddle, but they went on a roll and eventually brought the game to a 13-9 lead. Carlton is able to claw their way back to bring the game within 1. UMass isn't fazed by the Carlton comeback and will move on to the finals. UNC versus Colorado was a game with plenty of highlights. One major note is that Seth and Eli Freed are back for UNC, and they made a massive impact in this game. The game started with many holds, with the first break coming by UNC to take a 7-6 lead. Colorado gets a clean hold afterwards to bring us to Galaxy points. An errant throw from Matt Barcelos gives Colorado the chance to take half. Tobias Brooks shoots a laser of a huck to Elliot Hawkins. Colorado plays some small ball, which eventually leads to a Tucker Kalmus goal assisted by Ryan Shigley. The second half was a back and forth battle, with UNC getting a hold and 2 breaks out of half to bring the game to 10-8. After teams trade holds, UNC has a chance to get another break. Colorado holds, then has a chance of their own to get a break on the very next point. With the score now being 13-12, Colorado has another chance to break as they get an open, same quarter field huck to Elliot Hawkins just short of the goal line. Colorado works it around and barely gets the break to tie the game. The next 2 points were clean holds, bringing us to universe points. UNC puts on a clinical and, dare I say, smart offense to win the game against Colorado. They will face off against UMass in the finals. UNC versus UMass at Smoky Mountain Invite is nothing new, as they have faced off against each other each of the past 3 years, with UMass besting UNC each time. Let's see how this year will go. UMass claims the first break of the game early on, and even though UNC had opportunities to get a break of their own, they weren't able to punch one in before halftime, leading for UMass to take half 8-6. UNC won't go down easily though. They are able to get back-to-back breaks to take a 10-9 lead. The team will trade holds until we're at 13-13. Both teams have had plenty of break opportunities throughout the game, but neither team was able to cash them in all that often. Miscommunication from UNC leads to UMass getting a turnover with the Schmeat ball going up. It's a tough call on if there was or wasn't a foul here, but UMass will stay with the disc on their goal line. UMass gets a crucial break to take a 14-13 lead. After a clean UNC hold, we have universe points.
Down near sideline. Dunker. This working it back around. Zudisk trying to make something happen. High stall count, a blade over the top, and not able to corral that one in. This one floating, secured. Ridge working it down the line. Flat catch into the end zone for the score is Josh Singleton. 15-14 UNC Darkside.
A sloppy universe point where both teams had strong goal line opportunities leads to UNC taking the universe win to win Smoky Mountain Invite. Both teams were not playing with full rosters. Whether it was injuries, illness, or other reasons, both teams looked very impressive on Sunday, where both of them have championship winning ceilings this season. I am officially convinced on Colorado and UMass. I wanted them to join the upper echelon tier of teams in the college division, and they did that. Both had impressive performances on Sunday, and that's what I wanted to see. Both teams have super strong offenses and a steady enough defense to put constant pressure on their opponents. Colorado has not crossed O-liners over to D-line all that often compared to the other teams in this tier. I wonder if it's something that'll keep mileage off their players' legs and benefit them in the long run. All stocks are down on the Ohio Valley getting 2 bids. Penn State went 1-6 and Pittsburgh went 2-5, with one of their wins being a universe point win against Penn State. Teams can have poor records at tournaments and still be okay rankings-wise, but Penn State and Pitt both got blown out by teams in that top tier I just mentioned. You don't need to win those games, but you need to be competitive. They're both going to need a big push at Easterns, and I don't see it happening. On the other hand, the Ohio Valley game to go with these two teams will be very good Frisbee. Stocks are up on the New England region. All 4 teams from the New England region played well this tournament and made a strong case for the region to have 4 or maybe even 5 bids. We know about UMass. Brown took 9th place and was competitive in every game, with their largest loss only being 2 points. Vermont and Northeastern both lost in quarterfinals. Vermont had strong wins and close losses throughout the weekend. Northeastern had a couple strong wins and a few rough losses, such as losing to Colorado and UNC by 6 goals each. This region should be a lock for 3 bids, but each team is looking for that 4th or even 5th bid if Tough stays relevant in the regular season. Anti-shout out UMass for wearing their mismatched polos throughout the weekend. Personally, I would like to have numbers on the jerseys so I could tell who is who, but that's not the end of the world. At the very least, have everyone wearing the same color polo. As a viewer, and as commentators in the final, you could tell it wasn't a good experience trying to decipher who was who. Here are the power rankings entering the weekend. With 14 teams at Smoky Mountain Invite in the power rankings, there's going to be a lot of movement. I think the top 5 will round out as UNC, UMass, BYU, Colorado, and Carlton in that order. All of Georgia, Georgia Tech, Texas, Pittsburgh, and Penn State are slated to move down a bit, with Vermont and Brown making the biggest jumps. I think we have a solid top 7 right now, with Oregon and Cal Poly SLO being the 6 and 7, with those teams all being a tier of their own. Those are the 7 teams in my quote-unquote upper echelon teams I've discussed before. Those are the 7 teams I could see winning a title this year. With Easterns being the last major tournament this regular season, I wonder if anyone else can crack that grouping for me. Let's take a quick look at the predictions I made for Smoky Mountain Invite. The first one I had was that UNC would win the tournament. That was correct. The second one I had was Georgia Tech misses quarters and goes 0-4 on Saturday. I had half of this right with Georgia Tech missing quarters, but they did win 1 game against Texas. The third prediction I had was that Penn State claims the clear top spot in Ohio Valley. This didn't happen. Both Penn State and Pittsburgh put on a poop fest, so I'll take the L on that one. The fourth one I had was that 5 or more of the 7 quarterfinals, semifinals, and finals will be won by 3 or less goals. This was incorrect, but I think the semifinals and finals were very good games, so I'll take the L on it, but I'm happy with how the games panned out on Sunday. That is all I have for Smoky Mountain Invite. The regular season is wrapping up quickly. We have Stanford Invite next week, Centex in a couple weeks, and before we know it, Easterns is coming up. It's going to be cool to see how teams shape up before the postseason. I hope you enjoyed the video.